Okay, great. Fabulous. Sorry for putting the link in like right at 9. I forgot that I have to like manually add it each time. But I know I said this yesterday. I'm hopeful that our Zoom thing will just behave this time. Could be possible that I'm being overly optimistic, but we'll see. Get everybody to put something into the chat so I know everybody is here. My hair looks like fake fluffy mohawk. I don't know what's up with that. I'm just trying to put it up in a ponytail. Good morning. So yesterday's homework was pretty hard. I got lots of people sending me questions and stuff. That's very nice. How are we feeling now that we've had like real homework that we've had to do instead of like, okay, let's do a nice design quiz? Do I have ever exhausted? I feel you. I've been doing a lot of video editing and my laptop hates it so much. No bueno. Yes. This project will probably be the hardest thing that you do besides your group project. So, lots of fun. I'm glad that it's clicking like Legos. That's exciting. Yeah. Yes, it is a big thing. That's why I was like, I don't want you guys to try to finish it all in one day. Like, I think you should work on it and spend time with it. But I fix one small thing and another breaks is programming in a, yep. That's how it be. I feel that deeply in my soul. It's progress. That's why I get so excited when I'm helping you guys and we get a new error. I'm like, yeah, progress. Hello. Yeah. Listen, the software motto is move fast and break things. That's how it is. There we go. That's good. Excellent. There's been a movement away from the move fast and break things manifesto, but because, you know, things break when you move fast and break things. But yeah, I'm glad that you're feeling good about it all, Jamil. I'm glad that it's all clicking. That's exciting. So let's see what's up. So today we're going to kind of shift gears for a little bit. I want to go into some more JavaScript review. It'll be like the weird flavors of ES6. So that way we have all of these things. Again, I don't expect you guys to be like, wow. Some of these things I think you guys should be, and we'll talk about it. That's what we're going to do for lecture, is we're going to talk about some JavaScript stuff, do some review, write some code, and then we're going to spend some time later talking about what Gail talked about when she came in. So we'll be talking about virtual machines. We'll be talking about why we care, because she talked about them a lot, but like, why do I care? Like, I can just use my laptop. Why do I care about having a virtual machine? So we'll talk about that, and then that's it. Maybe if we talk about Heroku and JAWS, that'd be cool, but if we don't get to it, that's okay. All right, this afternoon, so for study hall, we're gonna do just like a Zoom meeting at 6, and then we'll watch Nick's video together. VirtualBox sounds like a cool anime, or virtual machine. So that's the plan for study hall. I have to do the Zoom link. I just haven't yet. I'll probably do it during our morning break. So that's what we're doing for study hall. No pizza either, unless you want to go order your own, I guess. Anything else? I didn't do anybody's like virtual code review yesterday because I was basically in the office the whole time. Either recording stuff or in meetings or helping the people who were there. Anything else? So I have a tech thing I'm supposed to do. it's setting up some system stuff, so I have to do that, and then we will do code review this afternoon. And so that is my plan. Hardcore has caught up with all your grades, and he'll probably be reaching out to you guys too, so hopefully we can make some progress and get a lot of code review done. I'm not happy with like my fake mohawk. I don't know what it's doing, but I don't enjoy whatever my hair is doing right now. I also don't like being able to see myself because like I feel like normally my hair is super messed up, but I can't see it, so it doesn't matter. Okay, cool. So today, JavaScript, virtual machines, code review. Keep on keeping on. Thank you. I'm just like, it's so poofy on the top. I don't know why. All right. So that is the plan. Any questions about the plan for today? Hello. Are we all good for what we're doing today? Excellent. Excellent. Cool. All right. So let me go ahead and we'll touch on SQL more. I just want to get through all of this stuff so we're not too far behind. And we'll just switch gears a little bit. Cool. All right. So then I gotta. No. This one. Sure. I don't know if it's doing the right thing. It does not look like it is behaving. Hang on. Can you guys see GitHub or can you guys see like my background and my to-do list? Let me check. Okay, cool. All right, it just moved stuff in a weird way and so I was confused. Okay. Excellent. Excellent. All right. So we're going to switch gears a little bit. Does anybody have any questions about Babel? Or do we kind of are just like, you know, it's a tool we get to use so JavaScript behaves appropriately. Are we good with Babel? Or do you want me to like open it and we'll walk through it again? Good on it? Yeah. Yeah. It's still abstract. Yeah. I don't like expect you guys to be like proficient, just kind of like, you know, Babel is a tool that we use so that way all of our fancy JavaScript features will work. That's all I really need from you guys. In the same way that we have like Shiv for HTML, it's the same thing for JavaScript. Is that a quick enough review for you, Carlos? Bet. All right. All right. Cool. So that's Babel. It exists. Great. So the first thing that I want to talk about with ECMAScript 6 that we've kind of used but we haven't talked about in a lot of detail is let and const. What are let and const? Does anybody know? Getting a lot of crickets. Are we just typing beautiful, beautiful definitions? Yep, they're variables. Things we use to assign variables. Yep. All right. Yeah. Does anybody know why? Okay, so we have variables and those are fine and that's mostly what we've been using. Why, but they act different yet. why do we, they don't change? Const doesn't change. Yep. But let can change. Okay, so that's one thing why we care, because so having var and const makes sense, because some things we just don't want to change. They're the same, but different. Wonderful. Yeah, both of them. Yep. Const and let. Let can be globally scoped, but we normally don't use let like that because it gives us some magic sauce. So that way we don't have to have it be globally scoped, which is kind of the point. So it's like variables are kind of inherently globally scoped, and we'll look at some code so we can see how all this works. But yeah, var is global. Yep. And sometimes that's nice because then we can do, you know, like when we change stuff inside of functions, it behaves in a certain way. But typically that causes problems because you don't expect it to change and then you call it somewhere else and then it breaks. No, that's good. You should have it be in let. Because the scope almost always works better when you're using let instead of var. So that's what you should be doing. Let and const are not global. Depends. We'll look at some code and we'll see. Let is technically block scoped, which feels weird with everything else we've been talking about JavaScript. I think const is still globally scoped though, unless you put it inside a function or an object. For the most part, yep. I think let is technically not global. Technically, but const and var for sure are, and let typically can't be. I just think you don't typically use it like that. So yeah, so they're variables, they give us different scopes, and that's important because we don't want to let our code break by getting redefined in the wrong spot. So this link that I put in here is just a nice little article that breaks them all down. So before ECMAScript 6, there wasn't any let or const. Everything was variables, and that's it. And the reason that we care is oh, my brain just totally like chilled. Okay, the reason that this worked for a long time is because everyone was expecting JavaScript to be wonky and weird. And so it was totally fine to let JavaScript redefine things and hoist and like not behave because everyone was expecting it to. But as JavaScript matured as a language, we needed a lot more rules and structure and like to be able to understand what the code is going to do instead of just being like, I don't know, man, maybe that'll do something. I don't know. So that's when we get let and const. These concepts in these concepts exist in other programming languages like C, Java. I don't think Python quite has them. Off the top of my head, I could totally be wrong. But Java and C languages use these two. All right. So let's look at some code. Let me share this with you guys so you guys have it. Okay. That's in that this code pen is in Slack, so you guys have it. Okay. So these are just little tiny code snippets. They're pretty, they follow the same order as the article. They just got rid of kind of all the junk. You know, the words that explain what the code's doing, the junk. So all of this looks pretty fine, right? Like we know what all of this is doing, yeah? We feel pretty comfortable with this kind of code. Yeah. Excellent. Okay, so we create a variable called test, and we assign it to the string value of hello. And then we have a function. It's just a regular function, and it has a name. It's called print, doesn't take any parameters. And inside of there, all we've done is define a new variable, and I've creatively named it inprint, and given it a new name. Let's open up our console. Oh, we got lots of problems. Excellent. I don't know if it'll. Okay, let me hang on. I have to go close some stuff that's been. Okay. Just do this. I have like the actual console. This is weird. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. This is right exactly where like the glare from my window is, so I cannot see this. So let me move it real fast so I can actually see it. Okay, there we go. Boop. There we go. So right here we have an error that says that inprint is not defined. So does that piece make sense? Is because that variable with our keyword of var was defined inside that function. The only place that we can use it is inside the function. Yep, it is locally scoped to the function called print. But test is globally scoped. So like if I wanted to print test inside of that function, we could. And why is it not working? What did I forget to do? It's not coming out. The other one, call. Yep. There we go, Venus. I haven't called it yet. I don't care. All right, I'm gonna comment out this line to see if it'll behave. Come on. Oh, I think it's in user messages. Woo, we're getting all sorts of stuff. All right, where is it? Should be hello, small hello is what I'm looking for. It appears to not want to work. Why? That is throwing a very weird error. I think it's unhappy because I have some weird stuff. Down here, and it's unhappy about that. If I comment this guy out, will you behave how I expect you to behave? Maybe not. I don't know why it's misbehaving, but it's unhappy with something I've done. That's for sure. There we go. That's what I want. Yes. I don't know why it's so unhappy with me, but it is very unhappy. All right. That's fine. It could be unhappy, I guess. Yes, give me lots of errors. Excellent. Excellent. I don't know why it's unhappy, but it is deeply unhappy. That is for sure. That's okay. We're expecting this to break. All right. So mostly what I want you guys to know for this part is if we use variable in a global scope, we get to use it inside of globally scoped functions. So test is a globally scoped variable, and we get to use it inside of the globally scoped function of print. Our locally scoped function, our locally scoped variable in print that exists inside the function print is locally scoped, so we don't get to use it outside of the scope of the function. So that's fine. That all looks pretty normal. That makes sense. If we define something inside of something, we should only use it inside of it. That makes sense. And if we use something globally, everything should be able to see it. That makes sense. I'm cool with that. Yeah. That all seems pretty reasonable. How do we feel about that part? Extra cilantro. All right. All right. All right. All right. So, excellent. Hello, Nick. Hello. All right. So the issue is though, so this is really weird. We're redeclaring, I should say this is redeclaring, not redefining. We get to redefine or redeclare variables. And this is weird because we know that JavaScript tries to hoist variables because it wants things to work. So if we have these two, like line 5 and line 16, how do we know which one it's going to pick? Like if you're just reading this code, which one is it going to pick? Because with the fact that JavaScript hoists things, and like if we're not doing like a super linear flow, like we have a bunch of functions that call each other, like we don't really know which one it's going to pick, right? Like we can kind of like guess the order of it. Well, maybe it console on line 12, it does test. But if we called it on line 17, would it be hello or would it be goodbye? We don't know. We have to test it and see. And it's also like, this is all pretty flat, but what if we had a bunch of functions that called each other and redefined things and redeclared stuff? Like, it's really, really easy to lose track of what this variable is supposed to be. Because this also isn't just reassignment. This is totally redeclaring it like it's a brand new variable, which is weird. Yes, exactly. That is exactly what is up. So we can see that this, so like I shouldn't have two separate, this is 6 lines apart. It is weird. This is why we moved away from variables with ECMAScript 6, is because like, this is weird. I shouldn't be able to call the same thing 6 lines apart and it'd be vastly different. So that's why we can see right here. I keep trying to point to the screen, guys. We can see right here, this is printing hello and this is printing goodbye. Bam, bam, back to back. And then we can call imprint then. And yeah, it's very weird. So that's one issue with just using var, is we could redeclare it and that's totally valid syntax, and that can cause a lot of issues. Like even with this tiny example, it's kind of like, I'm pretty sure it's going to be hello, goodbye. We don't know. And normally like this hoisting thing is really nice because that means that we get to, you know, like if we accidentally do something like kittens equal fluffy with lots of F's because they're very fluffy, and like we can just like use it later and, you know, be like console.log kittens, and like it's gonna work. Come on, go, give me that good fluffy. I don't see it. We have to define it. 426 messages. So it could just be that we're skipping through it. That hello undefined is behaving how I finally expected it to, though. I don't know what's up with that. All right. So that's kind of weird, but that's nice because then we can like define things as we're going and then like be like it's a variable later. And that can be really useful sometimes. And we can also pull things from different scopes if we need to. So this can be a really useful tool, and there's times when this is appropriate. But for the most part, it's weird. Actually, what I wanted to do is like what we're going to have in this bottom one right here. So I use, yeah. Yep. I use the variable before I declare it, which other programming languages, you do not get to do this. This can also be like really weirdly scoped. Like let's say we had, you know, between lines 26 and 27, we had like a bunch of code. And so we might not ever know what that's supposed to be until later. So this hoisting thing is cool, but it can also break code and it can also lead to really unexpected behavior. And when we're writing programming languages when we're writing programs, we expect things to run the same all the time. That's like the whole point of using a programming language. I'm going to comment out this line and see if we get anything else. Give me new stuff. What do we got? There we go. There we go. Now it's working. Yay! There's the Fluffy with the kittens. This one's not working. Or is it? It is working, it's just undefined. It should work. Could be that CodePen's like, no, that's stupid, please don't. Because nothing's misspelled, right? I spelled pirate correctly both times. Okay, I spelled them the same both times. Yeah, I don't know, but that's what I'm saying. I was expecting this variable to behave in this certain way, and it's not. So that's why we have let and const, is because they behave in a much more predictable pattern than just a loose var hanging out doing its own thing. So the first one that we have is let. So the first thing is we can't redeclare things anymore. So this will throw a hard error instead of just a message. So can you not hoist with let and const? No, I think that it's only a var thing. I could be wrong, but I am like 97% sure you cannot hoist with them. And that's kind of the point, is that they won't let you do weird scope stuff like that. It is JavaScript though, and so I'm sure there's a way to make it behave like that and do that functionality, but I think it doesn't let you do it by default. So the first thing that we have with let versus a variable just called var is that we're unable to redefine things. Redeclare. I don't want to say redefine and really mess you guys up, because we can redefine lets. So this breaks because we're redeclaring the same variable, and it's like, no, you already did that. What are you doing? But we can do stuff like and that's fine because we're just redefining it. So let's flexible enough to let us do that, and then we see it's green. So we can do stuff like that, which this is how most other programming languages do stuff like this, is that you can't redeclare the same variable once you've used it. Because, you know, like, that's weird. JavaScript's just like, I don't care, man. Redeclare whatever you want. Do it to them. This is where the magic of let happens, though. And I think we've kind of seen this with some of the projects that we've done, is that sometimes we want to use the same variable name in both a global scope context and a locally scoped context, so that way we can, it just makes more sense to us. Like, let's say, you know, I want to write functions for a zoo app and I want to talk about all the different animals and store data about them. I'm probably going to call them the same kind of animal names. And so with let, it gives us that ability to use the same variable names without overwriting each other. So first off, this like if true, should we ever do that in actual real production code? No, probably not. Yeah. I just wanted to do this so that way you guys can see what the different scopes are, because this is what they call a block, is anything within the curly braces. So kind of like an object or a function. I'm going to adjust my windows real fast so it's not like blinding white light. Okay. Hopefully that'll be, I don't know if that helped. We'll see. Maybe I'll buy curtains or something. Probably not. Okay. So we have the stuff that's existing inside the code block, and then stuff that's existing in a global scope. But we get to use the same variable name. Can you move the console to the left again? Yes, now that I do not have a blinding light, I should be able to do that. Yes, I can see that. Yes. Yeah, just with my windows, like the blinds turned down, it was like so bright. Okay. So we get to use the same variable, and we're doing two variable declarations. One's locally scoped to that if statement, to the code block of the if statement, and one is globally scoped. So we get to use both of these and then have it work. And so then we can see right here, this one is the guy that's inside of here. And then we can see that this one is the one outside. And this is like kind of the magic of let, is that we can do stuff like this without overriding each other, which is how most other languages work. And it's kind of, I think, how you would expect things to work. What would it do if both of them were var? Let's find out. So now change both of them to sleek, because inside of that, because they're both not as tightly scoped, when we redeclare penguin as sleek, it says in the local scope that it's sleek, and in the global scope it's sleek, instead of leaving the globally scoped penguin as fluffy. Yeah, see, this is why we care, is because things don't behave how we expect them to. So that's why we use let. So it's a very good question. Sometimes that's what you want, but typically it's not. Typically you want to pull something in, do something with it, and return something new, versus changing globally scoped data, which is why we use let instead of var, is because var does weird stuff that we don't really expect it to. One more time, can you say why both of the lets were consoled? We did just ask both of them to console.log inside the if statement and outside of it. So it's just going to do it. We're not changing anything or doing anything in there. So this one is going to talk to this guy because it's globally scoped. They're outside of the code block of the if statement. But the if statement just says like, if true. It doesn't mean anything. It just creates a scope for us so we can see it. But yeah, that's why both of them work. Yep. Which is fancy. This is typically how other programming languages do stuff. And this is typically how you want to do stuff. So that way things behave in a more consistent manner. Because like, I'll say PHP is really guilty of this too. PHP also has a bunch of weird scoping issues. Most scripting languages do. They don't have like classes and constructors and like they're like, exactly. Yep. I have to sneeze. I guess not. I guess we're done. Okay, great. But most scripting languages are a lot more, do whatever you want. It's fine. It'll work. PHP is even worse than JavaScript, guys. Like, there's this thing, and I'm not making this up. It's going to sound like I'm making it up, but there's this thing in PHP called a spaceship operator. And if I remember correctly, what it does is it asks if the number is greater than or less than another number. And like, you can use it for all sorts of weird stuff. Like, no, you don't get to make up things like a spaceship operator. Anyways, 60% of the internet runs on PHP. Yeah, Space Force all the way. Listen, I'm not going to front. I would join the Space Force. I seriously considered joining the Air Force when I graduated college. I was motivated by spite, and I know you guys are shocked by that, but I thought about it for a while. All right. So this is kind of the magic part of let, and so this is the part I really want you guys to understand. Do we understand that using let allows us to have the same variables be defined in different scopes without overriding each other? Cool. Yeah, and that's kind of the magic. And this is why Nick, I think he said this at like TA Nick, not student Nick, said this at like week like 5 or 6 of you almost always want to use let because it will be scoped in your favor. That's what he meant, is we expect inside of that code block penguin to equal sleek, and we expect in the global scope for it to be fluffy. And so if we made those variables, our globally scoped one didn't work how we were expecting it to. So that's what he's talking about, is it can be really confusing to keep track of what a var is going to do, but let tends to behave how you expect it to. And then I think the easiest one to understand is just const. So you can't redeclare it, you can't redefine it. It's just like a const. It's like, don't touch it, don't look at it, stop. The reason that we care, let's go see what the error says. Assignment to a constant variable is what the error we get when we do something like this. What would be an example that we've used this week that we should make something a const instead of a var? Our menu object could be a const. Yep. IDs, maybe an ID, yeah. What's something that we do in Node at the very beginning of like a password? Maybe. What's something we do at the beginning of a Node document? When we want to use other people's code, what do we do? Yeah, almost all of our require statements should be const, because we don't want to accidentally redefine them, because we could see how that would be bad, right? If like we require MySQL and then like we're not super paying attention and we redefine MySQL as just a variable later, and then suddenly nothing works anymore. Const will throw an error and tell us, hey, you've tried to redefine this. Super broke, yeah. Because, maybe you're not like super thinking about it and you're like, okay, I want, HTTP. And then you're like, you want the URL maybe. And so you try to save it as HTTP because that makes sense. And then your module doesn't work anymore because you've redefined it as a variable that's just a string. So that's like most of the time when you're going to use const, you're going to make your require modules const because you don't want to redefine them. I'm sure there are other times, like I think the IDs and passwords are pretty good examples. But yeah, it is definitely much more behaved than just making everything variables that can just override each other wherever we want. Cool. All right. So any questions about let, const, and var and when we're supposed to use which one? Cool. If you guys are still mostly using var for all of your stuff, that's totally fine. You should mostly be using let. Yep, because it'll be scoped more appropriately how you expect it to be. The other thing that I think is nice, I wanted to talk to you guys about this. I totally forgot to. So with everything being remote now, totally put that you're proficient at remote working on your resume, especially if you want a remote job, because now you guys have professional experience being remote. So put it on there. I don't know why that reminded me, but you know, have that on there. Cool. But yeah, almost always you want to use let. Occasionally const thrown in when you want something to not change. There are times when it's still appropriate to use var, like if you want something that will be really flexible and changeable and you want it to behave like that. There are appropriate times for it, but most of the time you want to use let. Cool. All right. So this is in Slack, so you guys can see all this code. And then we're not going to worry about that yet. This article is in your syllabus, so you can go through. She writes a little bit different. Oh, look, it's another share. She writes a couple different examples. They're pretty similar, and she explains them a little bit different. So if there's anything that doesn't make sense when I said it, see if her way of saying it does it. Yeah, she just goes through all of them. I think it's all pretty easy to keep up with her. I don't think she writes like overly complicatedly. All right. So this is something that we've used a pretty good amount. I just want to hit on it one more time just so you guys have it. So what they're officially called now in ECMAScript 6 is template literals. You will also hear these referred to as string literals, template strings, and I think every now and then like string literals. So like basically any combination of those three words are typically the same thing. And all these are backticked strings. So that way we get to use variables inside of our strings instead of doing, I'm trying to open a notepad so I can write so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Yep. So instead of doing something like this is text plus, you know, our variable kittens plus more text. Instead of doing something like this, we just get to do our template literals like this. And this can be really useful when we're trying to hand things to other things. And we can also do stuff inside of that expression part, which is really nice. So instead of like, you know, just handing in variables or whatever, we can do stuff with it. It's very cool. I think these get, they were called template strings before 2015. It's called a grave accent. I didn't know that. We can use our / escape character, just like anything else. All right, cool. This is, I think, the magic sauce right here is the difference. Expression interpolation. It means we get to put stuff inside of other stuff and it'll work. So we can see in like this first one is sorry. Okay. This first one has like, okay, a string plus we do some math, okay, plus a string, and then we have to have that new line character in there. And like that's not super complicated, but it is really ugly, right? Versus down here, we just get to be like this. And I think it makes a lot more sense. And you don't, I think the best thing about template literals is that you don't have to worry about spaces, trailing or closing spaces, because you kind of write the sentence how you expect it to be. Because notice right here, this has, we have to remember to put the spaces on both sides. But this one, we just write how we would write a real sentence. And we just put the spaces where we expect them to be. And we don't have to remember every single thing needs a space. The other thing is this is syntactic sugar, which I don't know if we've talked about that before. All it means is we are making changes to our code that do not change functionality, but make the code more human readable. So if you ever like hear somebody like saying like sugary code or anything, eye candy, yeah. Exactly. Yeah, because what we're saying is inside of there, we want to like run our JavaScript stuff versus in the first one, it's just kind of like doing it. Because technically, I guess if you took those parentheses off, I don't know. I don't know what it would do. Yeah, I think so too. I think it would print 510. I think is what it would do. But yeah, that's what it's that's the $sign curly braces is our expression. So we can put variables in there, we can do math, we can like, I think you can even put function calls in there. I think it'll just let you do whatever you want, which is pretty cool. Because like then you can have a template that calls a function, and then you have that function return a value, and that value will get put into that string wherever you end up putting the string, which is very fancy. I have no idea why you would return why you would that totally, my brain just like shut off. I don't know why you would nest them. I guess this kind of is like what I was talking about. Here, let me see the nested one. I guess. Does this seem like super complicated and really hard to understand what they're doing? Because I don't super know what it's doing. So I guess you can nest your template strings, which is cool. I don't know when you do that. I've seen people do like the stuff in that got color coded. This I've seen people do. That makes sense. That seems like totally reasonable, valid code. I don't know why you would nest them. I'm sure there is a valid use case. What is the question mark doing? That's a great question. Does anybody remember what this question mark colon format is? It's a word that starts with a T. It's not a query. Nope, the $sign is just how we say, hey, we're going to do some JavaScript now instead of writing strings. So this question mark format is a ternary operator. A ternary operator is basically just a condensed way of writing an if statement. So the way that ternary operators read, we're going to use this easier one up here. It's asking if the item is collapsed. This is us saying, asking a question. If it's true, we do the thing on the left. So if the item is collapsed, we're going to expand it. If the item is not collapsed, we can ask them to collapse it. So ternary operators are just condensed way of writing if-else statements. So if we have a really simple if-else statement, we can combine it all into one line. So let's take a look. Let's code that. I also realized that like I slouch a lot and like I don't walk at all. And so this like working remote is going to kill my soul. It's all good. You guys get the CodePen joke now? Yeah. So if we were to do something like, let's do, okay. So that's what like expanded out it would look like. So then if we come down here and do our ternary operator, we just do fruit question mark. I might get some syntax errors. I don't know if I'm doing this right off the top of my head. Yeah, I am. There we go. So they both did the same thing. I just added a string in this one so we know that this one, the question mark is saying if. Yep. Yep, yep, yep. So instead of being colon is else. Yep, yep, yep. So the way that it works is conditional statement. If it resolves to true, do this, else, do this. But yeah, so instead of being like 4 lines of code, it's 1 line of code. If it's a really simple if statement, this ternary operator can be a really nice, succinct way of doing it. It is weird. It is a weird way of doing it. This works in Java almost the exact same way. I think ternary operators in C-based languages are a little bit different because I don't remember using them a lot in C, but I know in Java, ternary operators are pretty popular, and they're written almost exactly the same if I remember correctly. But yeah, so not super like fundamentally critical. If you understand lines 5 through 9, you are G2G. Yeah, it's just a way of simplifying it. Exactly. That's all it does. As it makes it more simple. sometimes you care about things like code size, and so if you can reduce your code size, it can increase your website load, which would be nice. I don't know if a ternary operator's technically execution time faster than writing out an if else statement, but it would make your code smaller. So we can write like this. What do you mean? What are you asking me? Are you asking me which one I want? Theoretically, it cuts down on errors. Coding, yes. I don't care. If you guys give me, it reduces errors due to like spacing and missing parentheses and brackets for sure. Logic errors, though, it won't fix, but it definitely reduces typing errors. That is for sure. Carlos, to answer your question, I don't care. No more semicolons. No, there's a semicolon still at the end. It just goes all the way at the end. So instead of like 2 semicolons, you only have to write 1. Yeah. But yeah, as far as preference, personally, I don't care. As long as you're writing, almost got happy. No, go learn Python. Then you don't have to worry about things like brackets and quotation marks and that kind of stuff. You have to worry about spacing. Do I use ternary operators a lot? Honestly, no, because my brain doesn't automatically think about them. I normally only end up with ternary operators if I go back to a project to refactor it. Because then I'm like, oh, this is a really simple check. Let me just make it a one-liner. But typically when I'm writing code, I end up just writing the if statements out. I have seen, again, like with Java developers, I see them do it a lot. C developers, not as much. But yeah, it like, it's syntax. It's not super like vital to know how to do the ternary operators, but you should be able to read them and understand what they're doing. But if you are writing code just like lines 5 through 9 and you're like, yeah, I know what's up, that's all I really want from you guys. I want you guys to be able to read line 11 and understand what it's doing. But I think like if you're like, oh, I need to check if this is this, and you write an if and else statement all the way out, that's totally fine. Yeah, I like ternary operators a lot. They like, I think for simple decisions like this, it kind of feels more Englishy. Like instead of like breaking it all apart in this like flow chart kind of way, it's just a sentence. Yes. Sometimes. Yeah, because like if you're trying to make like complicated decisions, ternary operators don't work as well because they really only do that this or this. You can daisy chain ternary operators all inside of each other. So you can be like, if this first one's true, do this, and then like they can get really messy. But yeah, I typically only use ternary operators when you're making like pretty simple choices and you just want it to do something. Like maybe if the user's logged in, call this function. If they're not logged in, do this function. That would be like a pretty good example of when to use them, but yeah. It's not fundamental that you go, oh, I have an if statement, make it a ternary operator. I just want you to be able to read it. And I want you to be able to write like if else statements. You can do them. If you're like, I got this, do it to them. I would also recommend if you're doing anything slightly complicated that you write out a comment. And it's just like, you know, this one's not super complicated, but just maybe be like, checking to see if fruit is correct flavor. Just so that way you can say what the operation is doing. It doesn't have to be like, this is a ternary operator to check blah, 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 blah. Just say what you're trying to do. You know. All right. That was a little bit of a derailment, but I think that's good. I like them. I think they're neat. I think they're a nice way of writing code. All righty. So it is 10, and look at that. We didn't get kicked out of our Zoom meeting after 40 minutes. It's very exciting. All right, so let's go ahead and do our break. We will come back at 10:15, and we'll keep writing some more JavaScript code. And see you guys again. And it's same Zoom link. It should work and behave. I know I'm being optimistic with that. Any questions before we go on break? No? Okay, I will see you guys back at 10:15.